Fair use. Fair use.
Nation state now if we lost electricity, not for 12 hours, but for an indefinite period of time. I would argue that in the United States, if it was indefinite and it was major areas, that you'd have a breakdown in social order very, very quickly. Um, right now, we do have power outages, but there is this confidence that they will be restored pretty quickly.
All right, Shalom. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahawah, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, QADASH. Also want to give double honors unto the apostle, elders, and bishops of Great Millstone. Blessings and salutations unto the Akim out there enduring this truth across the four corners of the earth, as well as the men and women that follow, and those who might look like the other nation but are of the nation of Israel and their father's side by blood. And just get into the quick lesson. I ran across this video, and for the most part, uh, I mean, it makes sense. I would say it's coming from his opinion, and I agree. With some of the things that he's gonna say, it doesn't make it like that is exactly how it will happen, but with the way that society is operating nowadays and what the scriptures say, okay, it makes complete sense. All right, so I'm gonna finish letting them talk. Because here, let me go running back just a little bit.
Restored pretty quickly. And so even though certain select areas will go longer, there is this just absolute belief that we're going to come in with things, we're going to get it back up, and so maybe a couple of days and you'll be good.
And that's the thing. That is the very thing there, as far as power outages. People, storms happen, people hit light posts, um, accidents, so on, and, just shortages, and whatever, however, we've all experienced loss of power, all right, or you got to burn them candles or your oil lamps or whatever lights you got that's battery operated, flashlights, whatever the case is, we had that. Matter of fact, the last time we had one, I believe that was last year, and what ended up happening is we pretty much had to take most of the things out of our freezer, and we went to go get ice that very same night. And of course, everybody else had the same mindset, to the point where, everywhere I went was no ice. I went to my job because we have an ice machine there. I went to my job not expecting them to have no power, but they didn't have power either, And I just remember the darkness, man. I just remember the darkness, and that's the thing, and that's why I'm a read. I might just read the whole thing and breeze through it. I'm gonna go off of the spirit, but Wisdom of Solomon 17. That's what it reminded me of. Because when things go, when there's no light, and darkness reigns, so to speak. It's just a different story when you can't turn a light on. It's a different story when you can't turn a stove on, can't microwave, can't keep something cold, uh, let alone, just your basic uh, daily task that you use electricity for. Also, with it being dark, like you said, everybody, the social state kind of remains intact a little bit because um, everybody has hopes and confidence that it'll come back up. Even if it's a couple days, you just figure out a way. But what about a week? What about 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Some of these places have went without. Here, I'm going to check this. I'm going to check Hurricane Katrina. So let's just see. Let's see. It says a definite timeline for power restoration after Hurricane Katrina is not possible, as the duration of outages vary widely depending on location and extent of the damage. However, it is known that millions of people went without electricity for over a week, and some of the worst hit areas, Louisiana and Mississippi, were without power for weeks or even months. That's just enough right there. That's like, come on, man. It says most severe areas and the most heavily flooded areas of New Orleans, it took weeks for power to be fully restored. Some sections of the city did not have electricity back for at least 2 months. So hey, anywhere from a week to some months, man. All right. And we see what happened down in there. Everybody running to the Superdome, heard little stories and things of what was going on in the Superdome. You also had how certain sections was segregated. People who lived in the neighborhood wasn't allowed to even come into their own neighborhood. This is their neighbors, all right, telling them like, hey, go about your business, That's basically, let's say Jonte was neighbors with Tanner. Now all of this go down, ain't no power, is dog eat dog. And now Jonte try to go back into his neighborhood, and Tanner and his boys is like, nah, you ain't welcome. Well, hey, we had cookouts together. All of that is gonna be out the window, man. Okay, none of that is gonna matter. All right. Let me see. I didn't. Oh, let me. It's over here, Salakia. I'm hitting the wrong tabs. This is yep. This is Second Ezra chapter 15. I'm gonna kind of skip around a little bit. Uh, Verse 19. It says, "A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation." And when it's dark out and people don't have food, don't have. You imagine having a child, a baby. You know, you ain't. You better get some candles and some flashlights. You're gonna be looking very, very forward to the sun coming up. You know, but this is what was going on, and this is what's going to happen. Ain't gonna be no pity upon the neighbor. And our children played on the soccer team together, and all of that. None of that. All of that is out the window. All of that is out the window, man. All right, so I'm gonna let him. Well, he's about to get it. Well, I'll play that part. I'll play that part.
If it was absolutely a question mark, I think people in many cases would go into the survival mode.
That's what it is.
And they would do those things that they think are commensurate with protecting their family or their tribe.
Yeah, that's what it's gonna come down to. No pity upon your neighbor. All right. That says uh not that part, not that part. Dang, I'm thinking of something different, Salakia. Let me continue.
And I think we'd see the breakdown in social order much faster than we want to believe.
Yeah, but then that's the thing, man, because now he's about to get into a little bit of uh the social, or the social life of Americans. And like you said, it'll break down faster than we think, because a lot of people feel as if they are sociable, but you're not. You're drowning yourself with social media because you're just that. You're not sociable. You don't know how to hold a conversation in the same room without the phone and scrolling and this and that. That's rare nowadays, because everybody's just being fed and overloaded with social media. All right.
And that kind of thing worries me a lot. And just on that point, because you've made the case in On Character that there is this perhaps erosion of character that we've seen. And I've been really curious, and just to tie this into this point, for something like that to happen, for power outage to, to really spark that kind of really civil disobedience, that frightening civil disobedience. And if perhaps we strip that back and we look at, we tie that into this erosion of character, what are perhaps the most kind of concerning aspects through there? And do you see that erosion of character at the level of the individual, or is it more at the institutional level that could give rise to something as serious as perhaps, that civil disobedience there? Yeah. I think it's both. If we start at the individual level, we are all raised. I think we learn character. I don't think we're born with character. You learn it from parents and examples and things you read and whatnot. And it becomes a...
Yeah, so, I mean, you see the title of the video, of course. You can check it out. I'm going to play a little bit more, but he just basically went into character, things that you learn. And that's the thing. I always said that is, they say it takes a village to raise a child. And I always looked at it like in this present time, in these modern days, is the fact that you had a village raising a child. Now everybody is raising their child or their children in their own huts. And then we then put these children out into the village after raising them in their own individual huts. And there's not too much common ground, It's not too much common ground. Some people just don't care. Some people care, and then some people, it's just different ways of people being raised. So when you put all of that into one pot, man, into one a room, for lack of better words, and there's fireworks, There's fireworks. Some people treating people this way because that's how they was taught, and then they like, well, I wasn't raised like that, so they, so on and so forth. But there's no common ground of respect, in a sense. All right.
Set of rules or habits for most people. You see yourself as a part of a greater whole, a team. It's a number of things, and most of us, when we're in that, we start to take pride in those, and and instead of people, rejecting you, they go, "Oh, Stan's a scoundrel. All right, you've got a real problem." On the societal level, I think you just expand that, because society used to have norms. And I don't want to say there was the good old days, because they were never that good.
Yeah, like he said, society used to have norms. Okay.
But the reality is, when you have a society that has norms that says we don't do certain things, you call it, we don't litter, we don't kill, we don't steal. Suddenly you've got the ability for society.
Sounds like the Bible to me.
Rules that people can live with and feel secure, they can interact and whatnot. Once you allow those to erode, then suddenly everybody is forced into sort of the survival mode.
And that's what it is, man. There is no common ground. Okay? I'm about to look up that word erode. Because I like the fact that he used that word, speaking of character. It says gnaw or eat away, a back formation from erosion. Maybe see if this goes back to 1500s. It says to gnaw away, consume, right? And assimilated from X meaning away and rodir meaning to gnaw. All right. So pretty much let's look up gnaw. I don't know why my says gnaw, to gnaw, bite off little by little, right? Wear away as if by continual biting. All right. So then that's what happened is hey, well we gotta grab this real quick. It happened little by little, certain things started getting accepted little by little. All right. So it says, Ecclesiasticus 19:1, a laboring man that is given to drunkenness shall not be rich, and he that contenteth small things shall fall by little and little. Okay, so the fact that people didn't feel like that common ground or respect, or even speaking about the Ten Commandments, or the Bible being the law of the land, or they had a better way, though, it seemed those things seem small, but when you reject them and disregard them, you'll fall little and little, and that's why we are where we're at today, man. Okay, I'm probably not gonna even. I gotta get it. I gotta get it through the spirit. I gotta get it. But that's where we at today. So when these lights do go out, when this food do get scarce, there ain't gonna be. Oh, that would have been perfect, man. Um, man, yeah, there ain't gonna be no system like Egypt, man. That's crazy. I actually gotta bring out that in Egypt anyway. Uh, I'm everywhere right now, Salakia. But there ain't gonna be that in Egypt, you know. Lean, what is it? Lean calf, was it? I'm gonna try to find the spot. All right, so pretty much this is when Joseph, right? He was in Egypt. His brothers kind of sold him into slavery and everything, and it was all through the spirit of YAHAWASHI that he was placed in that position, so he could, at the end of the day, um, so prophecy could be fulfilled. Us going into slavery, us being brought out, delivered, receiving a name, and all of that, getting the Passover, just so things in the Lord movie can get going. Okay, but Pharaoh had a dream about pretty much there was going to be a famine, and Joseph explained it to him. All right, and so let's see Joseph's solution. Uh, right here, I go to 41 and 29. It says, "Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty, years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. And there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of the famine following, for it shall be very grievous. And for that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice, it is because the thing is established by the Most High, and the Most High will shortly bring it to pass." Meaning, you ain't got too much time. "Now therefore let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the fifth part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years, and let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. And that food shall be for store in the land against the 7 years of famine which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants." See, then the thing is, he's like, look, the Lord about to send a famine upon this land. You're going to have 7 good years and 7 bad years. But in those 7 good years, put some of that up so it can cover the 7 bad years. All right. So he was game planning with them. Said, "And Pharaoh said unto his servants, Can we find such a one as this is, a man in whom the spirit of the Most High is? And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, For as much as the Most High had showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art." Remember, he was thrown in jail by Pharaoh because Pharaoh's wife claimed that Joseph tried to sleep with her when really she tried to sleep with Joseph, and he kept his integrity, man. And that's the thing. That's what's lacking in this world. In these modern days, people would have went and just did it. Oh man, this is Pharaoh wife, man. Because it's a reputation that comes with that, man. It's almost like a goal, not necessarily like a goal, but an accomplishment in a sense. Yeah, I slept with. It's something to boast and brag about, but also something to be, lose your life over as well. To be boasting, he could have. In these modern days, somebody, I'm just saying, a nigga in that position would have did it, just to boast and brag about sleeping with the king, with the king's woman, man. All right, but he kept his integrity because he feared YAHAWASHI. Okay. And also, in these times, a lot of men was more masculine and not saying every single one, and adultery didn't happen, but men was more integral, man. Versus nowadays, it's we just raised different. Goes back again to that character. All right, and but it says, "Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou." And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, "See, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt." Right now, not saying, I'm just saying on a general scale, overall, this type of energy doesn't happen. He threw him in jail, he come out, he help him out, and these time they'll throw you back in jail. You know, they send innocent people to jail for 15 plus, 20 plus, 30 plus years and let them out and give them all of these dollars. But it's like this man can't get that time back. Just because you can give them a lot of money, that doesn't mean that helps, and it helps the problem. But this is why this is not our rest. This is a land of injustice, man. And that's why what's going on is going on in this place, is because the Lord is bringing judgment upon this place. All right, let's go. This is 15. Yep, this is Second Ezra 15:7. It says, "Therefore said the Lord, I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness, which they profanely commit. Neither will I suffer them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves. Behold, the innocent and righteous blood crieth unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually. And therefore said the Lord, I will avenge them and receive unto me all the innocent blood from among them." Same as when Cain slew Abel, man. His blood crieth unto him. He did nothing wrong. Well, same with Esau in this rulership now. He's just going about the earth, doing what he want to do, taking as many lives as he want in the name of his NWO. All right, in the name of the image of the beast, or IOM, IOTM. You gotta put an acronym. Even that, you say we got freedom of speech, but we gotta put an acronym down there on everything just so we can get a point across. All right. But it says, "Behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt." Speaking about America, all right? That's why they got the pyramids and certain obelisks. Certain Egyptian, how you want to say it? Pretty much certain things that they had in Egypt. I'm losing my words right now, Salakia. So I'm just keep on reading. Um, but also the bondage as well, some of the gods and deities and things of that nature. All right, sun god and all that. It's just different names for different empires. It says, "But I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof." Now, keep in mind, he's speaking about Egypt, and he's speaking about that with Esdras. But we was well out of Egypt. I think we left Egypt it was like it had something to do with 144. You know, let me slow down. Jeez. Yep, 1446. That 144, man. Allegedly, it was 1446 BC. You know, so during the time of the Babylonian period, all right, where Ezra was at, uh, had to be during the the 700 600 BC era, somewhere around there. Okay, so that's well after we was in Egypt, or Salakia. Ezra was in the what is that? Persians and the Medes. I had to double check Salakia, man. Let me just double check. I believe it's the Persians and the Medes. Khan, yep. Persian Empire. Yep. Following the Babylonian. So yeah, that was even a little further on. So it couldn't have been talking about the Egypt that we once was in, man. Or it had to be a new Egypt that it was speaking about. Okay. So where we at? It says, verse 11, but I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm and smite Egypt with plagues as before. There you go. As before. Because you read in Genesis, you see what the Lord did. I mean, Exodus, you see what the Lord did unto Egypt. All right. By way of what Egypt was doing unto us. So just like he brought plagues, he brought lice, he brought locusts, he brought frogs, he made the water as blood. He brought which I probably won't get into. You can read it though. Wisdom of Solomon in the 17th chapter. He brought darkness, darkness that they can actually feel. All right, let me see if I can find that part. I just read this. Dang. All right, I'm gonna continue on. Have to find it later. Verse 13. No. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, you can go there too. It says verse 13, they that till the ground shall mourn, for their seed shall fail through the blasting and hail and with the fearful constellation. And that's just in these modern days, back then they would plant crops, and if it didn't rain or if a storm came and it didn't properly and your crops didn't properly grow, you didn't have a harvest. You didn't have food. That would affect your money. That would affect your business. All right, that's what would happen. So what is that in these modern times? These jobs, continual job losses. A bunch of people, or you got to work 2, 3 jobs, and there's layoffs and there's tariffs. All of these different ways that there's truck strikes and port strikes, all of these different ways that food gets to you. All right. Those different ways are going to start to be cut off and become shortened, man. It says, Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that the Most High shall bring upon it. So like I read that. 14, woe to the world and them that dwell therein. For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hands. And that's what it's going to come down to. All right. If the lights go off, it's going to, hey, like he said, people are going to kick in survival mode. Because everybody don't have the character to do as Egypt did in a dire situation that's going to affect the whole land. They can't come together. All right. So what it is going to be every man for himself. That's the American way, even though it's supposedly united, but there's no one united. All right. Some family members are not even united. Some family members don't even speak to each other. Won't speak to each other for years or see each other for years for whatever reason, and then what'll bring you together is a funeral. You might speak at that funeral, then you right back to, once again, there's no common ground, there's no morals, no ethics in this place. It's empty of integrity. All right. It's empty of integrity and full of pride. Okay. So, like I said, you could read Wisdom of Solomon, the 17th chapter, to speak on that darkness that came upon the land. But as far as these in the near future, once the lights go out and once it's Katrina everywhere, and then martial law kick in, and the MOTB, hey, you got a lot more people starting to see that America ain't what America used to be, man. All right. Hey, so with that, Lord willing, you was edified, and Lord willing, we allowed to endure unto the end. Once again, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahawah, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, RAWCHAA, QADASH, Shalom.